history. Any moments in all of Jewish history that you can be privy, you can be witness to. Tell me out and where would you want to be? And Aaron said, I told him the expected answers. I'd love to be by Yetzias Mitzrayim at Kriyas Yamsuf. Perhaps by David Asina in the grand revelation, aware in the Klaius or perceived or Asina Akadosha. And his father said, Aaron, I hear, but that's not where I want. So tell me, Daddy, where would you go if you can pick any moment in history? And Shimon Felder responded, I would want to be there when the Yidden were liberated from Auschwitz. Where I could see Yidden, Erlich Yidden, who were watching their families sent to the gas chambers. But they miraculously survived into Rachamei Shamayim and they saw their entire world crumble. They lost their families, their jobs, their lives, their entire reality, faded throughout the course of the Holocaust, and still they held on to Yiddishkeit. If I could just see those Yidden, they still held on tight. Going into a gas chamber with Shema Yisrael on their lips. To see those Yidden again, to speak with them. How to hold on to Emunah even in the darkest of times. And that caused me to reflect. Can you imagine the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, Befrat, especially in the Churban Bayis Rishon? You had the Oren, you had the Luchas Eidos, and the Ashros HaShechina. Miracles that Klal Yisrael encountered day after day, living with the Shechina. And then the Churban Bayis Rishon took away all those miracles, stripped the Shechina from our midst, and the Binyan HaMafor, the Eis of the Grand, the Beis HaMikdash, destroyed, razed to the ground, burnt before our eyes. We lost everything. This was the golden era of Klal Yisrael's history. How in the world do you hold on? To meet those Yidden who still clung tenaciously onto their Emunah, their Bitochen and Hashem Yisborah. Are we longing for those days? You know that whenever we refer to the Ribono Shel Olam, and we're not allowed to enunciate the Shem HaMafurish, Yud Kei Vav Kei, so we typically, in the course of our conversations, our shiurim, we refer to Hashem Yisborah as Havaya, configuration of the letters comprising the Shem HaMafurish. So we switch around the letters ever so slightly. It's not Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's Hey Vav Yud Hey Havaya. And Ritzadik Cohen in his Pri Tzadik Rosh Chodesh in the first Maimer quotes of Bnei Yisrael. The Din of Rebbe writes in his Bnei Yisrael in his Mamori Talmud. Why is it that whenever you refer to Hashem, we call the Shem HaMafurish Havaya? Writes in the Bnei Yisrael. Because Havaya is the only configuration of those four letters that has another meaning. If we were merely to intermingle the letters comprising the Shem HaMafurish, we would still know it's a reference to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore we still want to refrain from coming up with any other configuration. But Havaya from the Shiva or Shul altar, I'll give you perhaps another interpretation. That same B'nai Yisrael tells us that every month of the year we know I'll be the Arizal, I'll be the Mekubalim. Every one of the 12 months corresponds to a different configuration of the Shem of a flourish of the letters Yud, Hey, Vav, and Hey. And the tziruf of the letters corresponding to this month, the Chodesh Av, comes from the Devar, Parshas Kisava, Parachav Zayin, Pasuk Tes. Haskes Yishma Yisrael Hayav. Haskes, be attentive and listen closely, Yishma Yisrael today. Hey, Vav, Yud, Hey, the Rosh Tevus. Right, so Shul altar, that means that the tziruf of Hey, Vav, Yud, Hey is the last tziruf that we have, that we experience before Nebuchadnezzar Melech Babel took down our base Hamikdash. The last relationship we had with Hashem was as Havaya. That's which represented that closeness, that proximity to the divine. The greatest closeness we ever had. And Yerushalayim HaKadosh, in his land, in his building, is near B'Tavayim, witnessing the miracles, living with an Oren HaBris. Our last close relationship was between us, B'nai Yisrael, and Hashem as Havaya. The tziruf of the month of Av, before Testav, changed the course of Jewish history forever. That's how we want to remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When we had those glorious days, that golden era in our history. Hey, Vav, Yud, and Hey, Haskes, Yishma Yisrael Hayam, listen, Klal Yisrael. Listen to the messages that brought about its destruction. Listen in on the messages that can help us get to that base of Mikdash back. There was one person who almost saved it all. As we turn our attention momentarily to the 11th of the Kinnos, we have a Kinnos that's considered the most important Kinnos, because here we are now being told us. I gave you Megillah Seicha that we read last night, when you have the minute to lay in again this morning. I gave you those chapters comprising the book of Lamentations, and I'm going to give you one Kinnos that I will pen myself, because I'm telling you, we almost could have saved the Bayis Rishon. Yoshua HaMelech, one of the greatest tzaddik and the greatest king we ever had, created a massive tshuva movement, a massive revolution. It was his wicked grandfather Manasseh who had avodah zarah idolatry spread throughout the land. Manasseh said, I have also an Ovid avodah zarah, but lo and behold comes Yoshua HaMelech at the age of 8. After his father was murdered, he ascends to the throne and he reigns for the next 31 years. In his 18th year, Hilkiah, then the Kohen was making repairs, renovations. She would sit on the base Hamikdash. Came across the Sefer Torah, they opened it up. And it was really open to the pages, to the Pasuk, and it took V'chol Kisamo, Oresh Uliyakim, Estivri Torah, Zos Lasses Isa. And then inspired Yoshua HaMelech, I have to do tshuva. I have to save Klal Yisrael. We have to bring about a massive tshuva revolution throughout the land, which is exactly what he set out to do. And he thought that Klal Yisrael fully repented. Lo and behold, there was still a minority faction, still Ovei, avodah zarah in the land. And the Osir Palamecha wanted to wage war against the Syrian. He said, Yoshua HaMelech, I pass through your land. I don't want to wage war against you, nothing but Klal Yisrael. I'll only ask you permission. Can I go through the land of Eretz Yisrael? And Yoshua HaMelech thinking, we're already at our utopia. But he was mistaken. And it was Yirmiyahu Hanavi who said, no, there's still only Avodah Zarah in your midst. I plead, I beg you, Yoshua Melech, that tzaddik that you are, but unfortunately the land is still not fully righteous. Allow him to go when he listening, now went to Chola Anaviyah. And maybe a woman should have a different perspective, but Chola act from the same sentiment as Syria. Do let him in, let Pharaoh Necho in. And still, the adamant Yoshio says, no, I'm going to go and wage war. He didn't listen to the Nevi'im, to the Gedolei Hadar. And in this kingdom before us, Yirmiyahu Hanavi laments, one individual, one tzaddik, Yoshua Melech, could have saved the Beis HaMikdash. He failed to listen. He was killed by Pharaoh Necho, 300 arrows piercing his body. But at the last moment, in his last breath, he recognized his mistake. I didn't listen to Yirmiyahu Hanavi. I didn't listen. He the call of Chola Anaviyah. And here we mourn the loss of Yoshio Melech, the great king, the massive tzaddik, and the revolution he engendered. We mourn that with his demise, his tragic death, came the last obstacle before the Churban Bayis reached. And we have to learn the all-important lesson of what it means to listen to the Gedol. If the tzina of the name of Hashem for this month is Haski Sheshma Yisrael Hayom, then this is the month that beckons us to listen more closely to our messages, to wake up. And we can have a tzaddik like Yoshua Melech, who created such a tshuva revolution, who single-handedly turned upside down the entire Eretz Yisrael, and single-handedly could have saved and stopped the Churban Bayis nation. Then oh, what a consequential lesson to be gleaned from Kimmy and Al. To heed the call of Gedolei Yisrael, to not question. To not be mavasa the Gedolei Yisrael when they come out with certain statements and people say, oh, the Gedolim, they don't know what they're talking about. Whoever Elias Svei could tell, Rabbi Yaakov Bender, look at Madison Square Garden, I could fill the Madison Square Garden with all of my enemies, with all the people that have tried to disgrace and deride me. And people questioned when we lost that daughter from Moshe Feinstein and Yaakov Kamenetsky, the bullshit, and Shimshon Chen told me that he asked his father, Moshe Shimon Zechatzodik the Proclamani was at the helm of Yaakov Yisrael. And he knew he was easily machriya himself before the lies of the Gedolei Olam, Moshe, Yaakov, etc. And then it transitioned to a new generation of Elias Feiner, Shmuel Kamenetsky. Those individuals who were Chaveirim, Yedidim, with Moshe sharing Yeshiva. And his son, Shimshon Sher, asked his father, how do you machriya yourself? These are wonderful Talmidei Chachamim, but they're not from Moshe Feinstein. They're still not the Blush of Rebbe, they're not from Yaakov. They're not from Baruch Kohler, how Tanti, how you machriya yourself? And Moshe Sher responded when they assumed the mantle of leadership. I noticed right away the siyata d'shmaya that they got. I saw and I lived daily in the office, Yiftach B'doro, Kishmul B'doro. Perhaps they're not as great as Friedrich the Keduros. But Hashem sends every respective generation the leaders to guide them that are matim, that are apropos to that given generation. And woe is to the individual who is Mavaza. The Gedolim Yoshio Melech Lahavdil didn't heed the call of Yirmiyahu Hanavi, and look at the tragedy that ensued. But what can happen when people are Mavazer, Gedolei Olam, Gedolei Yisrael, Tamid Chachamim? Hasyesh Shema Yisrael Hayom, let's take out this monumental lesson. To listen to the calls of Gedolei Yisrael, to not be Mavazer. Frightening story. Yechiel Spiro shares with us how as a young man, Rabbi Levin learned in the city of Slonim. And one night, it was the night of Tisha B'Av, that Tzibur gathered in the shul to recite the Gilus Eicha to say the Kinnos. And on the way to shul, some of the townsfolk noticed a group of the local youth, boys who were troubled and lost. They invited in these young men to join them in saying Eicha Kinnos, but they shrugged off the invitation. Instead, they decided they were going to have some fun that night. So they started throwing little pebbles and debris at the shul windows. They still didn't get the attention they wanted, so they went to throwing rocks, shattering some of the shul windows in the process. And they still didn't stop with their fun. So to everyone's amazement, they tossed a barrage of pine cones into the shul. And they threw pine cones even at the Rav, and they struck Rav Harif, the Rav of the shul, in the head. And when the Rav was hit in the head by a pine cone, he began to cry, "Oh, the base of Mikdash is burning, I base here. The base of Mikdash is burning." Within a couple of minutes, everything calmed down. The boys ran out of the shul, and a little while later, there was news that a fire broke out in town, spreading quickly from one home to the next. And while the majority of the people in those homes were saved, there were several young men who were trapped, screaming for help, but no one could save them. And after many hours, the fires were finally extinguished. The Chevra Kadisha made their way into the homes. And they removed the bodies of 4 young men. The crowd gathered and they sobbed softly, and it was time to identify the bodies, and to everyone's shock, the only 4 who were burned alive were the 4 boys who had thrown pine cones at the Rav. And so continued Rabbi Levin. Clients all had yet another woman over which to cry that night. They sat down on the floor and they cried for the Kinnos, and then went to bury the 4 young men. Right, so Spiro, look what can happen. The Mavas and the Rabbonim, the Mavas and the Tamid Chachamim. And we have to ask ourselves, are we listening to the calls of Gedolei Yisrael? Do we make fun of our Rabbi and our Morris when we come home? Do we make fun of different statements that we just don't understand? But how about saying we just don't understand? But we're not going to be Mavasik Gedolei Yisrael. Yoshia HaMelech, you could have listened to Yirmiyahu. Could have heeded the call of Hold on Aviyah. But he felt he knew better. Let's tell our Baruch Hu we want to make some Mikdash back, and the only way it's going to come back, to listen, to revere our Gedolei Yisrael, to be machnia ourselves to their advice, to their wise, sagacious counsel. We need Tamid Chachamim in the world. We needed the Rav Chaim Kanevskis, the Rabbi Yoshis, the Rabbi Steiners. And if we no longer have them, you're right, we might not have Baalei Ruach HaKadosh to that degree. And we don't have those Tzaddikim who Zucha Negila Eliyahu, but again, Yiftach Medoro Kishmo Medoro. Let's listen to our leaders, our Madikim. Let's tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu we're being Mekayim Haskis Yishma Yisrael Hayom today on Tisha B'Av. Havaya, we want the relationship back with you again. He writes, and please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give us that bias, give us that Hashras Hashima, give us that closeness once again. Ayikoni Yirmiyahu Yoshua.